You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of sight. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas you've just crossed over into. The game room. One of my earliest gaming memories is watching a tape full of previews of upcoming games. It came with an issue of Mean Machine Sega back in 1992. Now the main feature on this tape was the early version of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and it blew me away at the time. I've been a Sonic fan ever since. As most people would agree, the franchise has had its high points and its low points, particularly in the last decade. The overwhelming opinion is that the best Sonic games are still the early ones on the Mega Drive. Sonic 2 had that incredible level design. Sonic 3 and Knuckles had multiple characters and was technically amazing. And wait a second. What's that? What's this? What's that? Don't feel bad if you don't recognize this game. You're not supposed to. This is a very early prototype that somehow made its way out of Sega and onto the internet. This game is widely known as Sonic Crackers, though the ROM header suggests that this was a mistranslation, and the true name was supposed to be Sonic Stadium. There was debate on the internet for years about whether Sonic Crackers was actually a Chaotix prototype, or whether it was just a really well done ROM hack. However, the more recent discoveries of other Chaotix prototypes have provided proof of the link between Chaotix and Sonic Crackers. It's a very interesting look at how concepts for Chaotix were originally pitched internally. Those who have played Chaotix will immediately notice the similarities. The unique elastic ring mechanic that was used in Chaotix makes an appearance here, as well as early versions of several Chaotix songs. However, most of the similarities end there. The aesthetic of the prototype is unique, even for a Sonic game. The player controls Sonic and Tails, who are not in the final version of Chaotix. Even the platform was different, with this being a Mega Drive prototype and the final release of Chaotix being for the 32X. It's also clearly an extremely early version, with no sound effects and no possible way to actually die. There are 4 playable areas in Sonic Crackers, but they vary in terms of how complete they are. The main stage is the industrial level that looks like a very early version of Techno Tower in Chaotix. It's essentially a vertical level where Sonic and Tails are trying to get to the top. After reaching the top, or after 3 minutes, the stage ends and the game over music plays. This is by far the most complete area in the game. There are springs to interact with and spikes that can actually hurt you. Even the abrupt ending of the stage is more than you're offered anywhere else in the game. This stage even has a variety of colour palettes, implying that the day-night cycle was already in the mind of the programmers. The other side-scrolling stage is nowhere near as finished. However, what it lacks in polish, it makes up for it by being completely bonkers. The suspension of the stage in the clouds, the film strip style tiling, the floating signs. This stage reminds me a bit of another cancelled Sonic game. This stage doesn't really have much design. It's a series of ramps that loop until the game overplays, which only takes a minute in this level. There are also 2 overhead stages that are really just in there for show. They were possibly planned to be some sort of overworld, but in this version, they're simply animated backdrops with no collision detection. Still, it gives a sense of how the framework of Chaotix could have ended up like. As we've established, this prototype is still extremely early. Hilariously, the physics in the game aren't even finished, allowing Sonic and Tails to simply stop in the middle of a ramp or hill. The spin dash is implemented, but there's no rolling in the game yet, so it simply serves to send Sonic running out at top speed. The title cards for each level display, but without any level names. There's even a debug mode in the game that can be accessed by pausing, and allows the player to freely move the character through the level. though doing so causes them to temporarily lose their arms.
Chaotix ended up being a really interesting game, even if it wasn't considered to be as good as the Mega Drive classics. I can't help but wonder though what it would have been like if it just had more in common with Sonic Crackers. Maybe the game would have gotten more recognition if it just starred Sonic and Tails in the end. Even just releasing it on the Mega Drive rather than the 32X would have given it a much better position in the marketplace.
Regardless of these thoughts, Sonic Crackers is still a fascinating look behind the curtain. Having access to things like Sonic Crackers can give us a much broader perspective on how the industry actually works. The Sonic franchise is notorious for having lots of interesting bits both hidden away in the code and left entirely on the cutting room floor. It's not often that the general public gets in on the ground floor of a game's development. This sort of opportunity is very unusual, so it's gratifying to know the community made the most of it.